Welcome to another episode of Reliance Real Estate Radio. And here's your hosts, Jeff Nevin and Joseph Singsheim.
Hey everybody, it's just me here. We're doing this remotely, and since I have all the equipment at my home office as well as our regular office, I'm going to do it since we're not supposed to have interactions with more than a few people. Jeff's at his home office working remotely as well. We're going to work on this if we have to be doing this more than once, where we can do it with like a screen share type app, and then we'll be able to get on video together and have both our vocals on there as well. I figured I'd just throw our next one in with just myself doing it at this point. It's called Schedule It. If it's not in your calendar, it doesn't exist. And this is episode 25, so we're getting up there trying to stay consistent, which is why we're doing it remotely. So your life is hectic, maybe not at this very moment, but it was, and it will continue to be as you add maybe Zoom calls or Google Hangouts, some learning in there. Your kids are at home from school. Now they're on spring break. Adding in different things, we want to make sure that we're planning everything out and putting it in your calendar. You may say that you're really busy, right? We always use that word busy, but are you actually busy doing the things you're supposed to be doing? That's a good question to ask yourself. Like, is this something that's actually going to impact me or is impacting me, my business, my career, my family? You may find yourself bouncing between meetings, conferences, endless hours of checking your email inbox. Turn that off. Make sure there's only certain times that you're actually checking and reviewing your email. Otherwise, you're going to live there pretty much all day. Question yourself, isn't time really spent being productive? Aimlessly letting others control your day? Are they coming in and scheduling those things because they have sharing time with your calendar, or they can access your calendar, right? Don't spend your day being reactive, and be more proactive and control your day. Have you placed your big rocks in your stream? Meaning, what's the one thing that you're supposed to be working on, the most important thing at that point in time? And are they placed first before everything else sneaks its way in? Make sure the time spent with family, loved ones, vacations, time off for yourself, and then work on your business after that and put it all in there. So if you have date night or time spent with kids or family night or dinner, those things all have to be in there scheduled first, and then everything gets scheduled around it because we need time to reset, recharge our batteries. If you don't plan the most important things first, they don't get scheduled, right? And it's like, we don't really need date night. Like, I see my wife every night, right? That's something that could be said. But you do. You need to go out and have date night, or you need to get out with your friends, or you need to see, your parents or your grandparents. Those type of things need to be scheduled in there, and you do need vacation, because if you don't take it, you'll get burned out. We need to set up and ensure we're setting up our calendar for success. So let's break down the process to ensure that you can, because that's something Jeff and I are pretty good at. I wouldn't say we're great. We're still always growing, right, and always learning. But start with the overall goal, right? Take your business plan, for instance, and then take your plan of action, or whatever you're trying to do in your business or your life, right? And whatever you're trying to accomplish. Make sure the goal is obtainable, something that can be reached, but maybe just outside reach for you. So just outside that comfort zone, because we definitely want to stretch that. And we also did another podcast on that. If you want to look back, I might even link it to this one if you're watching on YouTube. But make it something that you can strive forward and strive towards, right? So some goals and ideas you can use. You can use your business plan, your 411. You can look at, doing the one-page business plan. You can look at some goals that you have set for yourself 3-5 years away that you can, what's the one thing you can do now to get you to that spot? Then break down that goal into smaller goals. And we just brought up utilizing the 411 action plan or action goal worksheet. Using that can help you break that down to a monthly goal, and then to your weekly goals, what you can strive for each month, then the 4 weeks that are within the month. It does break down your annual goals, monthly goals, and weekly goals. So it's able to break that down for you and help put in your mind what's that one lead domino, or what's that one thing that you can be doing to help you strive towards, and then break it down into smaller goals to help you meet those. And I know we keep bringing up little tidbits from the one thing, but what's the one thing you can do, and such by doing that makes everything easier unnecessary, right? And I know Jeff had written a few notes in here, and one of his was like, track your numbers. If you track your numbers like we do on a weekly basis, even a daily basis, then you can set yourself up for greatness coming in the next month, in the next 2 months, in the next year. You actually have data that you can use, so maybe tracking conversions on phone calls, or tracking conversions on showings with buyers, so you can know maybe how many showings you have to do to close or to find a buyer a home on average in the market right now, or how many phone calls it takes to get somebody on the phone. So once you've broken down those goals to this level, like to that minute level, right? Things become very clear. So now we're able to obtain and see clarity in what we're striving for, right? You have a better picture of what's going on and what actually needs to be done versus, the things that steal our attention or kind of sneak their way in. We can say, hey, that's not really directly affecting my one thing that I'm putting in there for that. So we might not need that, and it could be a time waster, so we can take that out of there. Each month, review your calendar, placing those big rocks, right, that you've now discovered. Some examples are, again, date night, kids' practices or games, I'm kind of tailoring it to what I do. Dinner with the family, so make sure I spend a certain amount of time, prepping and planning and making and enjoying, dinner time with my family, since I am on appointments during that time, usually. Lead generation is number one for my business, which is a lot of entrepreneurial business. You need to find new client base, right? Or reach out to your current client base, or even past client base, right? Script practice, right? Dinner dates with friends. Accountability or coaching is also a good one to put in there, right? I think I could keep going, and you can kind of know what your business is all about, or your family time, or whatever you're applying this towards is all about. But I think you really get the big picture, right? But it's the 80-20 rule is what it really comes down to. It's 20% of your activities will account for 80% of your results. So make sure those 20% of your activities, those big rocks you're placing in the stream, those things you're putting in your calendar and putting in there and keeping them, holding that accountable, that time, hostage essentially, are the things that you need to be doing. So let's get even more precise. We can actually get just a tad bit more precise in what we're looking at. Let's review every Sunday. So every Sunday we review the prior week, right? And then we do the same thing essentially. What can be removed in the week coming up that maybe was placed in there that doesn't need to happen, or could be shortened, right? Did we forget to add something? So we can always then add things that maybe we forgot to act. We can plug them in now while we're looking and reviewing the week ahead, right? And by doing this, you're also setting yourself up for a great week, right? Because you took the time to seek the clarity in the calendar, right? What your goals and objectives were for that week. You're setting yourself up on Sunday night and the other days ahead, right? You were intentional about it, meaning you took the time before it happened, so you're being proactive, and you focused on what you wanted to extract from the week of your business. So what are you focused on that week for business, and how can you either remove or add things that might be beneficial to you? And Jeff has notes in here again. I'm just going to touch on them for you since he's not here, but it's review what we do as far as our Monday morning accountability. And that's something like I set up and Jeff reviews on Sunday. And then Monday, Jeff and I and our team look at our numbers that we've plugged in there for the week. We review 3 ahas and 3 downs. We also review a weekly video, which is a motivational type video that we can gain knowledge from. It could even be our own podcast and video that we seek the clarity in what the message was given, but usually it's somebody else. But you can use ours if you want. And then we move forward with an action plan, whether it's, hey, we did really well, let's focus on something else that we can add to that, or hey, we missed a couple things here, what can we be more action oriented, what can we implement to make up for that and move forward, right? So pair this with the amazing scheduling technique, a to-do list, right? We actually review nightly and then rewrite. So throughout the day, you're check marking stuff off, but there's stuff that never gets done or just doesn't get done, or maybe you just don't have the time to get done because things come up. You can only get so many things done throughout the day, and you prioritized your to-do list, and those other things just, they can roll over, I guess, from to-do list to to-do list. So we write them down nightly. And that way we can get more clear on what needs to be done versus, I guess, what doesn't need to be done. And by rewriting it, we can clean up the stuff that's on it, right? We jot down other things during the day that we might want and kind of get scattered all over the piece of paper or book or however you're keeping your to-do list, right? But we can prioritize what needs to happen by rewriting it every day, cleaning it up, and being intentional on what we're doing. And then you can time block things into the calendar if they need while reviewing your to-do list. So if it's something big enough that needs to live on your calendar, your digital calendar, we can take and place a rock in the stream and put that in there, right? Ensure you limit the time that you're putting in. Most calendars default to an hour. However, we only need about 15 minutes. So we can adjust the calendar to maximize what we're putting in there. And remember, hey, sometimes there's drive time. Sometimes there's in-between times that we need to schedule. Sometimes there's just buffer that we need to schedule because it was a pretty intense type meeting, and we need 10-15 minutes to ourselves after that to decompress, readjust, realign, grab notes, and grab information that we need to get set up for the next meeting. We can't just bounce from one to the next. So make sure you're putting in buffer times as well. Even if it is just a 5 to 10 minute buffer time, you can have those overlap in most digital calendars. So the key to getting things done is actually using your calendar and then doing what it says in the calendar, right? Since we are entrepreneurs or sole business owners, a lot of us that are watching this, or even, stay-at-home moms, dads, people like that are running family, are even using some of our tips and tricks and value that we're trying to bring to the community around us. If you put it in your calendar, that's your boss. You are essentially your boss, and like I said, most of us are self-employed. We don't punch a clock, but this can be really amazing, but also it can be catastrophic because we're not following the schedule that we've laid out ahead of us, right? And then Jeff does have notes, and I kind of touched on some of them, but it's make sure you allocate the proper time for each and every aspect of each task, right? Otherwise, it won't get done because you'll find yourself bogged down and you only gave yourself a half hour, and then it just gets pushed to the wayside and we're on to the next thing, and maybe it's forgotten, right? So this will not guarantee that the item will get done, but it will significantly raise the likelihood of it actually being completed, is giving yourself an allotted and the best amount of time for the task at hand. If done properly, your calendar and your CRM, meaning your management system for your leads and stuff like that. For in our real estate world, that's the thing that we live by, is our calendars and our CRMs. It should dictate your daily schedule on what you should be doing. So it's telling you when you need to call people back, and if you have that in your calendar of when you're going to use that time, you go to your CRM, and then you know exactly who to call, when to call, and if you're calling, which database you're calling from even. By being purposeful and intentional, which is Jeff's word, and he wanted me to let you know that. When mapping out your plan of action, goals can then be broken down, and then implementing the time blocking portion of it, right? You have each and every day set up for success in your business, right? Or in your life, or in your world, or in your family, or however you're applying the knowledge that we're giving you, right? A successful day is actually spent intentionally and purposely working on the 20%, which we've already brought up, of your activities that will actually account for 80% of your results. So if you're putting those big rocks in the stream, and you're actually intentionally and purposely putting there on purpose, those will actually account for 80% of your production in your business, right? And right now, even right now when we're not, remote, we're all remote working, watching videos and listening to podcasts like this one, you still need to be intentional and purposeful. So if it's not in your calendar, it doesn't exist. And if you know me and you've used me as a coach, or you know me as a business acquaintance, or any of my videos that we've done with Jeff and myself, I always say it, if it's not in your calendar, it doesn't exist. And that includes date nights, time to yourself, friends, meetings, stuff like that, because Jeff always knows when I have people coming over to my house, because it's in the calendar. He knows he can't schedule anything at that point, and we do share calendars. Don't solely rely on your memory. Things can slip by, especially when hectic and busy and you have a lot of stuff going on and kids are firing off the questions at you, or you're in between meetings and you didn't schedule yourself enough time, and you're able to, you can forget things that need to get done, right? So if it's in your calendar, you actually have a much better likelihood that it'll actually get done. So follow us on all social media platforms. We're on there. You can find us either Reliance Real Estate Team or Reliance Real Estate Radio. Subscribe. Actually click the subscribe button in the bottom or in the middle, depending on which device or which platform you're on, whether it's a podcast or if it's a YouTube video, or if you're actually doing our blog posts, which we actually put out if you prefer to read. That way you can receive alerts when new content's actually being released. Share our content with somebody that you think could use it. So if you find something interesting, or you like something that we said, and you think somebody else, or maybe your team at work, or even your family could use any of the information, make sure to take our message and share it if you wouldn't mind. We hope, as always, that we impacted your day in a positive way and that you found value in all of this. So until next time, signing off.